what a good piece of bowling.
So hello everyone. So welcome back to For the Love of the Game of Cricket podcast. So like the India-Australia series is nearby. So 2-3 days we are away from it, and like also the World Cup is very close. So exciting times ahead, and also we have got like many different like cricket matches happening around the world in preparation for the World Cup. Like we had the England-New Zealand ODI series in England. Then like we had the South Africa-Australia series in South Africa, and also I think there will be a Bangladesh-New Zealand series as well, like coming soon in Bangladesh. So lots of ODI cricket all of a sudden like happening, and like because mainly because of the World Cup coming around, so gives us a chance to look at different teams, what are their strengths, weakness, and like how they are looking a few days ahead of the World Cup. So like yeah, as always, I have with me like Pranav and Prakash joins. So like yeah, so hi guys, yeah, and so we have got a few things to cover. So let us like jump right into say India Australia first. So the squads are have been announced. So Australia more or less playing a full strength squad. So I will just share the screen to discuss about the Australian squad first. Then we can move on to the Indian part. Yeah, so let's if we like focus on this Australian squad. So like major surprises, anything like Pat Cummins, Captain Cool, Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark come back. That's good news, like for the India series, and like we have got some new players like Tanveer Sangha and all these players. So I think the biggest setback, like what we saw in South Africa, the biggest setback for Australia was Travis Head injury. Like I think he's a very like at the top, like a very dashing like opener like for Australia right now. So apart from that, like Pranav or Prakash, whoever, so like, what do you think of this Australian squad? Like, do they have the like, are they like a powerhouse for this World Cup or for this series or whatever? What do you think about the squad?
Australia will, as far as I'm concerned, they scare me the most. They're the team that has probably, some people are less heard of. Like, for example, somebody like Matt Short and Spencer Johnson, you may not have heard too much about them. But in the Big Bash, this guy, Spencer Johnson, bowled a one-run spell in 21 balls that he
I
did
saw
that,
that.
and he's in excellent shape. So this team is a gun team. Now, they have one or two issues with, as you mentioned, with the Travis Head injury. I think there's a like-for-like replacement pretty much in Manis Labuschagne. He'll have to open the batting if Travis Head doesn't make it, but I think he's capable of it. He's not done that well in India, but then I just took a look at the venues they're playing. The venues are Rajkot, Indore, and Mohali. All three are going to be belters of batting wickets. You don't have to be worried about that. Moreover, this guy, I'm going to hit on all the people who are less known rather than, we know about Pat Cummins, we know
Right.
about Alex Carey, everybody. Tanveer Sangha, I think he's a leg spinner, if I'm not mistaken. Is he? He's made a lot of noise. He's made a lot of noise in the first class, the Shield, and in the BBL. Glenn Maxwell, we know. Steve Smith, this will be his sort of comeback of sorts because he's had an injury, and the word in the whole CA has been that in the middle order, Manis and Steve Smith can't play, which makes sense because they're pretty much a similar sort of player. So if Manis in this Travis Head situation, if he opens and if Steve Smith comes at 3 or 4, I think that breaks up the order, and then you have players like what's his name? What's the guy's name? I forgot. Marcus Stoinis and Matthew Short at the back end, and with Mitchell Marsh, who can come and do all the heavy hitting later. Not even mention Glenn Maxwell. So this is a team that scares me. Dave Warner will be looking for his swan song, and their bowling is always going to be top tier. So I really think Australia is a team that will meet in the finals, and I'm putting an India-Australia finals out there in the World Cup.
Good call. Yeah, Pranav, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think Prakash mostly covered everything. What I see here is with Travis Head's injury, it opens up one slot where I think they can fit Stoinis, Marsh, and Cameron Green. I mean, if Mitch Marsh is opening like what we saw in the third ODI against, or rather fifth ODI against South Africa, it gives them three slots. So you have Warner, Marsh, then Smith at 3. Probably you play Maxwell at 4. Then you have Green, Stoinis, Carey, Agar at 8. And then you can choose between, say, Hazelwood, Zampa, and Stark. Or maybe I forgot Pat Cummins because he's the captain. So then you can choose between Hazelwood and Stark, one of those plays, and then Cummins plays. So what sort of a balance that gives them is that gives them 8 bowling options. So if they're looking at that sort of a combination because of Travis Head's injury, it's probably a blessing in disguise because that reduces them or that increases their spin playing ability. If you look at how Mitch Marsh plays spin when he came down to India earlier this year and showed us how he plays spin, it's probably a blessing in disguise. I'm looking at that way. Apart from that, this looks a very strong side. I'm a little concerned about Josh Inglis because he's been a regular middle order player for Australia in the absence of Steve Smith. So, like Prakash mentioned, Labuschagne and Smith can't play together. But if Inglis is actually not performing, then it's a headache for Australia because they look at him as a potential backup wicketkeeper as well. So, that sort of balance, if Inglis is not able to give, then they have to look for some other options, which will be disastrous at this point. So it looks a balanced side. India will have a very tough competition in the series and the World Cup. And as Prakash mentioned, I'm expecting them to play at least twice in the World Cup. That's all I can say.
Yeah, agreed with your point. So I have just one little thing to add here. So like as we saw in the Australia South Africa series, like the Australian, like the bowling, like on those flat pitches, also the venues, like Prakash said, like they're playing in flat conditions in the World Cup as well. So I expect a lot of runs. So, but the only thing is they seem to go in a lot of like a overdrive when batting. Like in the South Africa series, we saw that like everybody's like trying to bash everything from ball one. So like do you think that is say feasible in a World Cup kind of a situation, or they have to like mellow it down a bit, like with maybe say Labuschagne at the top helps with that? Yeah.
What I want to point out here is if you pick England, they are like the side that you mentioned. And if they continue the same approach with Harry Brook's return in the side, they're gonna crash out in the league stage. That's all I can say.
Prakash, you agree
Also,
with that?
I don't think Australia were that serious with this. With the last few games, if you saw Mitch Marsh's last innings, he was just swinging the bat. And South Africa also got them good. If you look at the head-to-head over the last 18-20 games, it's 15-4 in South Africa's favor. So I don't think they took this pretty seriously. I have a feeling things will become serious now. Even that Zampa is equaling the record of Mick Lewis in 10 overs. He gave up 114 runs. As I said earlier, these shouldn't matter. The whole conditions will shift once they come here. And then for the next 2 months or till the World Cup goes on, they'll have to keep playing. Like I said earlier, even this Asia Cup win for India shouldn't matter. Everything is just a lead up to the World Cup.
Yeah. And I think Glenn Maxwell is gonna have a great World Cup, especially in subcontinent conditions. With his offies, like he provides a great balance to the side. So yeah. So now let's move on to the Indian side of things. So the India has also announced their squad. So I will share their like squad now. Yep. So, is it a surprise or not? Because like few like senior batters, I won't say the bowlers, the bowling attack looks like set, like it's what we expect. But few like for the first two ODIs, the say Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, and all these people like are resting, and we have got KL Rahul as the skipper, like and everyone like more or less it's set. But the only like few surprise would be to say that. So for me, I feel that they have kept say Jasprit Bumrah for all three. Maybe they will rotate him in the first few ODIs. And apart from that, like Ashwin has come back. That's like a major news. So he always does. Even the last T20 World Cup, he came back like. I think like for me personally, I think that's a decent decision. Like I would prefer like if Aksar is not fit, then maybe play Sundar as a first choice. But I would like, especially since it is at home in India, like I feel Ashwin has a lot of pedigree and experience. I know we are mixing red ball and white ball, but I feel that even he has been like playing practice games, and as Rohit said in the press conference that like he has been communicating with him regarding like the World Cup if he can play. So I think knowing Ashwin, so he will be very smart and he will be developing a few tricks to handle like ODI cricket, which he has not cracked it that well so far. So like I think experience is a great substitute for is a great thing for a World Cup. So the addition makes a valid sense. And apart from that, Tilak Verma is in. So and the main concern I think like which I hear is Sanju Samson like omission. So and Surya Kumar Yadav is given like another another chance, looking at potential mainly. So, what are your thoughts? Maybe Pranav, you can start off with this. So, what are your thoughts on the Indian? And I know you're a Samson, you want Samson. So, like, yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I do advocate for Samson, but the point here is Ishan Kishan's performance has actually overtaken Samson, and it's something that we need to accept because when India were at tatters in 66 for 4 in the opening game versus Pakistan, Kishan actually steadied the ship, and you could say his innings versus Sri Lanka almost showed you two balances that he could play. One, the mediocre role that KL Rahul does, and the other is an aggressor role alongside Hardik Pandya. So that keeps Samson away from the ODI game, and it's quite fair on Kishan to be given another go. The point here that we need to notice is this will be Surya Kumar Yadav's last chance to prove himself, and if he does not do well in these two ODIs, then he might actually crash out of the World Cup side because that gives the management an opportunity to add an off-spinning all-rounder, irrespective of whether Aksar is fit or not. Because what happens here is that you can remove a batter and add an off-spinner. So in case if Aksar is not fit, you can then add another batter, say maybe I don't know who comes in, Tilak Verma or Sanju Samson, that depends. So since Tilak Verma is a left-hander, so he comes in, but Surya's role is finishing. So you have two spots at stake, but from what I hear, Aksar should be fit in 10 days' time. That's probably next Monday. And he should be fine for the third ODI. Even if not the third ODI, then we have a game on 30th against England in Guwahati. He should be good to go for that game. So Surya needs to fire all guns. Otherwise, I think potentially Washington Sundar will come in because of his left-handedness. And in case we are looking at Aksar's replacement, Washington Sundar will come in. In case we are looking at Surya's replacement, then Ashwin is a little weighted higher as a third spinner, as an off spinner. But I don't know if they'll keep Aksar and Ashwin together in the 15. That's something that we need to look at again. What's interesting here is that Bumrah, Shami, Siraj, and Prasidh will be rotated amongst these three ODIs. I think Bumrah will play the first and third. Siraj will play the second and third. Prasidh will get, among these three, they'll get 2 games each, is what I feel. Because, Prasidh Krishna got only 1 game, and he's potentially the reserve pacer that we carry as a traveling reserve. So that's one point. The other thing that I want to point out here is I want Sundar and Ashwin to play together as 3 spinners. Jadeja will obviously play because you want to decide between those two as who will be the potential replacement for either Aksar or Surya. So you want to put them in the same situation against the same opposition in the same pitch and then decide that who plays well or best. Because Sundar is a decent batter, not a decent batter. He's actually an excellent batter. He, Dravid made an open in one of the under-19 games, if I remember correctly. So you have to put them on the same conditions and see how they perform. That's probably what I'm looking forward to from this whole squad. I'm happy for Shreyas Iyer because he's back.
So Prakash, if I may just ask you, put you on the spot a bit. Say everybody in the team is fit. Akshar Patel is also fit. So in the first game against Australia in the World Cup. So do you play KL Rahul and Shreyas Iyer, or Ishan Kishan goes out, or what will your combination look like regarding these 3 players? Rahul, Shreyas Iyer, and Ishan Kishan. What's your combination?
You can't drop Ishan. You can't drop Rahul. Iyer has to. He will get his chance now. And until his bat does the talking, this question cannot be answered. But I'd like to add on something else. The one thing that I'm very happy about this selection is it's only Rohit Kohli, Pandya, Kuldeep, and Akshar who are for the last ODI. They've kept the bowling pretty much the way it's going to be for the World Cup. And in the Asia Cup, none of these guys have been attacked. It's not going to be the same against Australia. I want to see Bumrah. I mean, we know how he is, but after his injury, there has been no problem. Everything has left the hand perfectly, and the ball has done too much at times. It would be nice to see how they will react when they are under pressure. Same goes for Shami and Siraj when they get their chance. It's smart they've kept Kuldeep away from the Australian. I hope they don't play him only. It's honestly, I really hope they don't play him, because Kuldeep is a changed bowler now. He's a lot more quicker through the air. You can't go back on the back foot and just bunt him away, and from that length, the ball can go all three ways. It can go straight, it can turn away from you, and it can come into you. I think his average pace has increased by 4-5 kilometers an hour, and his run-up has changed. And so I'm very happy to see that part of it. And with regards to the batting, I see another message with Tilak and Rituraj being there. These two are going to be the future of India, which is something that I'm happy, because they're already looking to the next part of the next edition of this World Cup, if this format exists.
Yeah, fair enough. So for me personally, I feel that if Shreyas Iyer is fit, I think Ishan Kishan sits out. Like, depends on performance. If he's not completely out of form, like in the 3 ODIs against Australia, then like if he's playing decently, then I will feel that for the starting, let's keep Shreyas Iyer and like Ishan Kishan, because we saw in the game against Bangladesh, everybody struggled, but like he was struggling to like rotate strike freely in the middle a bit. So let's see. I think Shreyas Iyer is a great player of spin, so that like plays into his hands a bit, because I think his combination with Virat Kohli in the middle overs, because Kohli is also struggling a bit against left arm spin and all these things nowadays. So I think maybe Iyer can take the lead role in that kind of a partnership situation, because Kohli is definitely going to play. So that maybe helps the team a bit. So let's see how it all pans out. So, and like,
I just want to add one
yeah,
point.
sure.
I'm sure we won't see 300 plus games. And I'm saying this with very much confidence, because you're preparing for the World Cup and you won't get flatbeds. I've seen MPCA Instagram stories, and it rained madly, I think yesterday, and the pitch was undercover, so you won't get really high scoring games. It will be somewhere around 270, 280, because that's what keeps you glued, like I said in the last episode. So it will be no high scoring games. You'll have to be careful while you're picking your fantasy picks.
Yeah. Like, I think it mostly depends on like a few venues, like as Prakash said, like Indore and all these places. I think like it will definitely be very flat. I don't know, like if they're like keeping a uniformity in those grounds or something. So let's see how
it's not expected to be that flat. That's the point I'm trying to make. So the conditions are slowly changing towards autumn. Of course, it's raining here in Mumbai, but not all parts of the countries are getting that heavy rain. Especially Rajkot, it's raining, but at the same time it's sunny. So probably you're looking at a pitch where it'll seem a little bit, it'll swing a little bit, but you adapt yourself and put yourself to 260, 270, and then let the team chase under lights. You'll also have to keep an eye on the dew that comes up.
What I can say about Kolkata is that in Eden Gardens, like chasing under lights won't be that easy, because especially in the October, November, it's like a bit cooler here as well, and also the wind comes in from like river and all these things happen. So like under lights, like get your runs in the like afternoon, like I will say. So whatever. So like and just like final point regarding this India Australia series I want to make is that I see many people on like social media like bashing the selection, like Kohli has been rested, so they are like thinking is like they're trying to phase him out or something. So I don't know, like what kind, like for me personally, like the selection makes sense, because you don't want to exhaust your senior players like going into a World Cup. You don't want them to peak too early, right? Because if you get 3 centuries against Australia, like, and you will definitely have a down like a lower curve in the World Cup few matches. So I think play 1 or 2 matches, that's good, and then like slowly peak your way into the World Cup. So that makes sense to me. So what are your thoughts on like resting, say, Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma in the for the first two ODIs? Like you're testing the bench strength, so that also makes sense. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but what does Virat Kohli, Rohit, and even Hardik Pandya, for that matter, what do they have to prove to Indian selections or selectors or to the fans? That's the question. There's nothing to be proven. You want to test your bench. You're preparing a team for the future. I heard that they're trying to protect Mumbai Paltan is trying to protect Sachin's record. What
Oh,
nonsense! What
that's
rubbish
abysmal.
do people have to talk to? You have to be smoking something. I want to know what they're smoking, those people.
I mean, you have this is basic common sense. Kohli will play till the next World Cup. I mean, he's just 34. Like, what's the point behind not playing two ODIs? What difference will it make? I mean, you're playing an international 9 international games. You're bound to get at least 200 out of that. At least two. And with Kohli, you can expect. I think Kohli will be peaking around the World Cup because 2016 Kohli, I'm able to see him now because you saw in that Pakistan 100 the way he paced his innings, and I think I'll be getting a little too much into it, but the way he paced his innings, you can see 2016 T20 Kohli on that, and he had a fabulous year 2016, and this is exactly the right time to make him rest, come back for the third ODI, smash 100 or a 50, get to that knock, and then you have two warm-up games. So you're potentially playing three more ODIs. That too in the span of what, 6-7 days.
Yeah.
You don't want your player or your high-profile player to be playing continuous cricket for 14 days after being on the field for another 14 days before. So whatever they are doing is making sense. I don't know what the hoo-ha is about. It's all nonsense.
And everything you've said about Virat also applies to Rohit. Rohit is saying, okay, what happened against Pakistan happened. It was a moving ball, moved, and it happens, right? But same thing, the way he's timing the ball, the way he's pacing his innings, when he's playing his shot, there is, it's proper defense or proper attack. There's no been this middle Rohit where he sometimes, loses his thing. So it's good decision, but I don't know why people need to complain. That's all I've realized in life.
Yeah, and the main thing is that you need to actually test the bench strength because it's a long tournament. Like injuries can happen anytime, right? So you need players like I know that like Rohit Virat need practice, but you need the younger players like the bench people to have more practice to be game ready to come into the picture right away because they have experience. These people don't have experience, so that's the thing. So anyways, so like let's so another thing which like Pranav only shared, so I will also share here. So Ashwin's stats regarding Maxwell and Steve Smith. So that's like let's have a look at that.
It's an interesting matchup that we are looking forward to because I remember in one of the T20 World Cups, Maxwell took Ashwin for cleaners, and I know I'm mixing formats, but Maxwell generally is a good player of spin, but there's a caveat here. Both are coming after a long time, and Maxwell has been out for a fair bit of time. So once he comes in, both Smith and Maxwell, I remember how Ashwin got Smith in MCG or Gaba, I think. No, in MCG or Sydney, I think it was MCG Labuschagne, brother. Laying out round the wicket, went with the angle, and Rahane took a catch at the slips. So potentially that sort of planning Ashwin will have. And if you look at this, Maxwell's strike rate against Ashwin is incredible. But what we need to focus on here is the adaptability that Maxwell has to show instantly because he does not have any match practice. Like Ashwin, because he has already played a TNCA local game here and is coming off to the first ODI. I'm not saying it's a massive advantage, but slight advantage because you know how ODI cricket is working after a long time. I could be wrong. Ashwin could be taken for cleaners by Maxwell. But versus Smith again, Smith will look to milk the ball for singles, doubles, and then take the game long. And whereas Maxwell will attack. So adaptability of not only Ashwin, Washington Sundar, and Jadeja will help. And we could see Jadeja and Ashwin reunioning after a long time in ODI cricket. It could be Mohali could be the place that we see.
Yeah, and I
I
agree
think.
with, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah,
Finish,
I
finish,
agree
finish.
with Pranav, like when he said earlier that you play Sundar and Ashwin together, like irrespective of the pitch, I would say just play them both because it's irrelevant just winning a series against Australia right now. But the main point is you need to find out more about these two players, like who is in a better form or who is playing better right now. Because the selection, if Aksar is not fit, needs to be proper in the World Cup. Yeah, now Prakash, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I just very quickly the whole I was sitting and thinking about why Ashwin and Sundar, right? If one of them is picked, I see them playing in. We played twice at Chennai, if I'm not mistaken, in the World Cup. We play once against Australia, and I think no,
Only
sorry, we
play
play once
once
in
in
Chennai.
one venue.
Sorry, yeah. And but there are like 4 venues where you can play him. You can play Ashwin in
Lucknow.
Chennai, Lucknow, Delhi, and I think uh, I, I may be mistaken, but Guwahati is also another venue, right?
Dharamshala.
Dharamshala is for seamers. I don't think we'll
Guwahati
be.
is warm-up game.
Guwahati's warm-up game. There is another venue I don't remember, but there are 4 venues where you can pick Ashwin to play, and that's where the finger spinners will work.
You can play
But
him in Mumbai versus Sri
Mumbai
Lanka.
also, yes, Mumbai also. But the another problem I think we need to, which can be fixed, is these 15-player squads make no sense. I think they
Yes.
should allow 18 players now, because back when this 15-player squad was set, it was because budget constraints, and I don't think cricket has a budget constraint now. There are hotels available. There are more than 40 staff that travel, which are the backroom staff. Why can't you allow the squad to have, that's the only rule change I'd like to see.
Yeah. So so this was about India Australia. So two more series which have been making some news is England New Zealand and South Africa Australia. So let's go to say England New Zealand. So recently England has replaced Jason Roy with Harry Brooks in their World Cup squad. So that's big news because we all know how Jason Roy can be destructive in the power play and everything. So he has a lot of caliber. So Harry Brooks is an upcoming potential talent. So how do you look at, say, before we move into the series? So how do you look at that change?
It's the right move. Jason Roy hasn't been in great form, and I don't. It was foolishness to have dropped Harry Brook in the first place to begin with. But what I see out of this decision is England don't have enough trust on their bowling rather than their batting. They're not going batting heavy. They're just keeping enough players and all rounders there, but they've stocked up on their bowlers, which I think they're not going to be a very good bowling side in this World Cup. Having Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid as your spinners, I don't see them doing too well over here. But in that series, they did excellently well. They ticked off a lot of boxes. Ben Stokes got a massive 100. David Milan got a massive 100. Their bowlers did all right. Chris Woakes did well. They gave New Zealand a proper humbling towards the end, and they are well prepared, but they're not going to get wickets the way they get in England. So I am going to go out on a limb and say England don't even make the semis in my book.
Yeah.
On England, I think from what I understand from Luke Wright's press conference is that they wanted someone who gives them flexibility. So David Malan and Johnny Bairstow will most likely open, but in say conditions where it's seaming, because David Malan, you need David Malan for your middle order. So in conditions where it's seaming, you probably might see Harry Brook open. Let's say if they are playing in Kolkata, where you want pace bashers, and I remember Brook getting a IPL 100 in Kolkata
Right.
against KKR. So where you want people to play bounce on the rise, you might see Brook opening, and you might not even see sometimes Brook batting at all. So that depends on conditions, and they have kept themselves flexible on certain positions and certain aspects. But as Prakash mentioned, their bowling looks a little bleak. I won't say it's very bad. I won't say it's very good, but it's a little bleak. If they get it right on their particular day, then it's fine. Otherwise, they might end up giving 350 as well. One concern for me is Joe Root's ODI form, because he has added himself to the Island series where Zach Crawley is captaining the side. So he wants himself to be in form, but like what Prakash mentioned, he won't get pitches where it'll be a flat bed, or you have to adapt yourselves to 270 games. That's the whole point. where it's swinging and seaming, you might see England a little bit on top. But what I'm looking forward to is the Ahmedabad contest between Australia and England, because Australia is a far more superior side when it comes to matchups. And why am I saying this is because Australia have more bases covered than England. Because if England has, say, covered 3 out of 10 bases, Australia has covered 8 out of 10 bases. And if they get as fit as Nagar, then it's 9 out of 10 bases. So probably that way, ICC might want to have a big contest, give them a flat bet and say, go and score 400 amongst each other and try and defend that. Probably we might see something of that sort, but England are looking a little down at the moment. They could be a surprise package. I think they might end up somewhere between sixth or fifth or something like that.
Yep, fair enough. So before we wrap this up, so two more teams very one has been very impressive, South Africa. In South Africa, they have scored bashed 416. I think Henry Klaassen, Klaassen is a very good player of spin. Even we saw in the IPL as well. Even whenever he plays, he's a very good spin hitter. So as we saw with Zampa also. So and I think the middle order looks really strong, South Africa's, because you see Klaassen, David Miller, and all these players. Like even Jansen lower down the order, has now transformed himself into a decent batter. So apart from his good bowling, so I think their middle and lower middle order looks very decent. If they can get off to good starts in the World Cup, I think they can easily outclass any team with the bat on their good days. So the only thing to look forward to South Africa is if they're I know they have got Keshav Maharaj and Shamsi as their spinners, but and they are in good form. I have hopes on them. But only thing is sometimes their pacers get hit. I know they are wicket taking bowlers. Most of them are wicket taking bowlers, but sometimes they can get hit in good conditions. So if they can manage the power play overs, I think their spinners can do a proper job in the middle overs. So anyway, so what are your thoughts on South Africa as a team heading into the World Cup? Not much talked about, but can they make the semis?
I think they can. They'll be the dark horse of this tournament. Somebody like David Miller 4-5 years ago came out, made a lot of noise, but now his game is grooved. I think Andrik Nokia is still injured, but he's given a lot of runs. I have a feeling he'll make the World Cup squad. And once he's back in the squad, a combo of Rabada, Jansen, and Nokia is, along with Keshav, and there's this guy, other guy, Kutz also, who's pretty good. They are a formidable bowling attack. Like Pakistan, when I was telling you guys the other day, you have to take them out in the first 10 overs. If you give them 3-4 wickets in the first 10 overs, they'll walk all over you. That's the sort of thing that you have to take with South Africa. The approach you have to take with them. Their batting is what Bavuma. You've got to mention this guy. That innings he played, I think it was against Australia. The team score was about 220 and he made 114. It's the game in which Agar and took the game away. But what an innings that man played. His average, I think, this year is close to 100. He will be he'll be the anchor for the Australians, for the South African innings. And if people can play around him, I think they'll go really deep in this tournament.
Fair enough. And so I think we are running out of time. So just to regarding this England-New Zealand series, so New Zealand Tim Southee got injured, and there have been a few injuries. Kane Williamson also coming back slowly. So what are your thoughts, say Pranav? So what are your thoughts on New Zealand as a side? Before the England series, I think they look better. After the England series, they look a bit more depleted and bit out of form as a team. So, but it's a World Cup, so we all know New Zealand can turn up any day. So, as a from a logical point of view, what are your thoughts on New Zealand as a team?
Well, I think New Zealand are just like South Africa. I mean, they have their pretty much bases covered, and they look like a side which will test your competition. I mean, you can't run off them suddenly, and they are going to play Bangladesh, so we'll get to know how they exactly feature on spinning wickets. But you can be wary of Santner, you can be wary of Bolt with the new ball, you can be wary of, if not Tim Southee, you can be wary of either Matt Henry or Blair Fickner, or someone else crops up. They might even all of a sudden get Scott Cugline out of nowhere. So there are people who can test your skills, test your patience, and especially versus India, they're playing at Dharamshala. where Bolt can get some really new ball swing. Gill and Rohit have to be wary of that incoming ball all of a sudden. So yeah, they can test you, but with Kane Williamson, they'll be blustered. But otherwise, it will be onus on, say, people like Conway and Latham to take them through to that good score of 260, 270.
So one like South Africa and New Zealand, I think South Africa look stronger than New Zealand for me personally. I
Yeah.
think they are also look informed the players, and see the batting looks much stronger than New Zealand as well. So so let's see how that pans out. So interesting. We had two good series, Australia, South Africa, and good. Need to mention that South Africa came back from 2-0 down to win the series 3-2. So that's a like good comebacks for them. So anyway, so we have to see once the World Cup starts how the teams are looking. So this is all what we had for today. So like hope you enjoyed watching, and we will be back in the next episode covering the Asian Games. So that is also a thing which is happening for the first time. So like new things. So we will see how that goes along as well. So keep supporting us, keep supporting our channel, and like by liking, subscribing, sharing, like with your friends, family members, so that like we can all have some good fun. And also like would like request you all to please in the comments, please share your thoughts about the World Cup, about the India Australia series. What are your thoughts? What do you want to see out of this series? Like who are your like MVPs for the World Cup? Like all these things, please do share with us, and also can connect with us on Twitter. Like we have also like I will share. I've also shared in the last video in the description, and also I will share here the description of our Twitter page, so we can interact and like get to like explore cricket together. Basically, that's all what we are here for. So thank you all. So have a great night. Bye.
Bye bye.